Shakespeare. A compelling name that translates to shake a spear. Yet it also alludes to more nuanced metaphors, such as the act of writing, perhaps with a quill. Numerous theories propose that William Shakespeare could be a pseudonym for the actual author or authors, individuals who will shake spears. If you speak English, the word poet or playwright has essentially become synonymous with Shakespeare, and our cells within cells interlinked within one stem. Shakespeare is taught basically in every English classroom. In discussions surrounding this name, many have linked it to the Greek goddess Pallas Athena, known as the spear-wielding goddess and patron of the arts, frequently referenced by contemporary writers of the time. The Elizabethans were thoroughly familiar with the Homeric hymn. Athena sprang quickly from the immortal head and stood before Zeus, who holds the aegis, shaking a sharp spear. Other Homeric hymns to Athena invoke her ability to influence inspiration. Homeric hymn 39. I begin to sing of Pallas Athena, the glorious goddess, bright-eyed, inventive, unbending of heart, pure virgin, savior of cities, courageous, Tritogenia. From his awful head wise Zeus himself bare her arrayed in warlike arms of flashing gold, and awe seized all the gods as they gazed. But Athena sprang quickly from the immortal head, and stood before Zeus, who holds the aegis, shaking a sharp spear. In the Orphic hymn 32 to Athena. Only begotten noble race of Zeus, blessed in fears, who joyous in caves to rove, O warlike Pallas, whose illustrious kind, ineffable and effable we find, magnanimous and famed, the rocky height and groves, in shady mountains thee delight, and arms rejoicing, who with furies dire and wild the souls of mortals dost inspire. Gymnastic virgin of terrific mind, dire Gorgon's bane, unmarried, blessed, kind, mother of arts, impetuous, understood as fury by the bad, but wisdom by the good. Male and female, the arts of war are thine, and O much formed. Dracana, inspired divine. Tritogenia, of splendid mien, purger of evils, all victorious queen. Hear me, O goddess, when to thee I pray, with supplicating voice both night and day, and my latest hour give peace and health, propitious times and necessary wealth, and ever present by thy votaries' aid, O much implored, art's parent, blue-eyed maid. Shakespeare. What better name could there be for a warrior poet? I do not dispute this claim. In fact, I hope to strengthen it by noting that another warrior poet shares a similar title. Odin, the Germanic pagan deity. Odin and other Germanic deities like Thor did have a large presence in Anglo-Saxon culture prior to Christianization, but after Roman occupation, leaving England with a colorful cultural background. In the 5th century, Bragi referred to Odin as Gungnir Shaker, Gungnir being the name of Odin's spear, so essentially calling him Spear Shaker, as Gungnir means itself to sway, or to shake in a sense. Like Athena, Odin is also a god of poetry, and is associated with the runes, signifying language obtained with a scream. Much of the same tropes that is connected to the Shakespeare archetype and our collective conscious. Odin, known for divine frenzy states of conscious and inspiration, for it was Odin who stole the meat of poetry, where it fell down towards men, causing both good and bad poets alike. Whereas Wotan, or Odin, dispenses this meat with care to a select few. But Athena and Odin's connections do not stop there, and although I do not posit they are the same deity, I think it is provocative to point out a number of their shared motifs and relate them back to the Shakespeare name. Both gods are identified as previously mentioned with spears, but also warfare and battle. Athena, born in battle armor and also associated with helmets. Odin presides over battles, swaying them this way or that, to collect souls of the greatest warriors, often depicted with the famous winged raven helmets. The name William, in William Shakespeare, means helmet of will, perhaps another nod to Athena's helmet motif, but it doubles back because William, aka Wilhelm, is a Germanic name, returning back to the Germanic Saxon Odinic heritage. And if one does believe that William Shakespeare is a name to hide behind, the name Wilhelm, helmet of will, in my interpretation, refers to that seat of agency of all thought and action, the head, the brain, where those misty thoughts form between the shadows of our mind's eye. And it is of note, when Shakespeare's name comes to us, it comes in this hyphenated form. In the Iliad, another name for Athena is Tritogenia, meaning third born of the gods, from Zeus's head with an almighty war shout. For some derive it also from an ancient Cretan, Aeolic, or Boeotian word, trito, signifying the head, so that it would mean the goddess born from the head, perhaps another reference to her birth from Zeus's head, but also to that concept of coming from the helmet, from the head, from the brain. Odin, like Athena, is also associated with a third birth situation, as Odin has two brothers, Vili and Ve. The word Vili translates directly to the word will, relevant to the discussion at hand. In Ovid's Metamorphoses, Minerva, also known as Athena's stand-in, animates man by breathing life into the clay shaped by Prometheus. Prometheus, son of Iapetus, first fashioned men from clay. Later Vulcanus, at Jove's command, made a woman form of clay. Minerva gave it life, and the rest of the gods each gave other gifts. There was also an account stating that Prometheus had created man out of earth and water at the very beginning of the human race, or after the flood of the Deucalion, when Zeus is said to have ordered him and Athena to make men out of mud, and the winds to breathe life into them. Odin, in a similar fashion, also breathes life into an inanimate object, this time driftwood, to create the first man and woman, Askr and Embla, literally ash, and perhaps elm or some sort of vine, from the Voluspa. Until there came three from that company, powerful and pleasant, Aesir to a house they found on the shore, lacking power, Ash and Embla, free of fate, without destiny. They had no breath, spirit. They had no mind, or poetry. They had no vitality, nor beautiful colors. Odin gave them breath. Honir gave them mind. Loder gave them vitality. Note that although contested, some suggest that Honir and Loder are nicknames for Odin's other brothers, Vili and Ve. Regardless, during this creation myth of man, the gift of Honir is Oder, part of the etymological root to Odin's name, Othin, meaning poetry. And they correspond, Honir, to Vili, which, as we hit upon earlier, is translated to the word will. To revisit the theme of Shakespeare, particularly considering the epitaph of Spear Shaker, we can examine the play Hamlet. Both Athena and Odin play significant roles in the spiritual origins of Hamlet, particularly in the narratives of Orestes and Amleth. It is evident that Hamlet draws inspiration from these two sources, crafted by an author who is nominally linked to the deities referenced within those tales. Athena is a main character in the Orestio, which is the story of Orestes and the murder of Agamemnon. Odin plays a role in the story of Amleth. Could this be a mere coincidence, or does it indicate a level of self-awareness on the part of the playwright? The print versions, as mentioned, are clearly as Shake-Spear, not Shakespeare. I would also reference our Shaky Signature Stream lecture on more contradiction with Shakespeare's name spelling. But if you're already bought into the Shakespeare authorship question, this might lead to more clues as to not just what sources the Shakespeare writer was using, but also hints at a larger, unseen process. In my view, the name Shakespeare appears to be an inventive fusion of the archetypal figures of Athena and Odin. This synthesis effectively distills two cultural archetypes into one, secularizing and managing collective unconscious motifs in the process. It represents the creation of a new cultural identity, utilizing the flexible medium of the English language as its vehicle, expressed in the works of those like William Shakespeare, delivered via a mass media endeavor like public theaters or mass print materials. The Renaissance was known for reviving Greco-Roman art. Perhaps Shakespeare, or other alleged ones behind the pen name, are also digging in their own backyard, as English is originally a Germanic language. But it's around this period we start to have the emergence of early modern English grammatic changes. Go back to our very first podcast episode with a real Shakespeare's Please Stand Up, where we lay out the logistics of previous empires using court poets to purposely flex and test the language, so as to better graft it onto a burgeoning culture. There's also plenty of innuendo in Shakespeare plays, and I can't help but also notice that there is a little bit of a phallic joke in the name Willie Shakespeare. So whether Shakespeare from Stratford-upon-Avon was hyper-aware of his name potential, or a well-crafted marketing scheme by aristocratic dandies, it does seem that there is a lot of innate magic in the name William Shakespeare.